What up, players? Welcome to your 16th tutorial against me, Travis. Thanks again for watching and subscribing. Basically, I'm going to start my lessons a little differently. I'm going to kind of show you the end result first, so if you want to skip the lesson, I won't be offended, but, I'll just be crying myself to sleep. But here we go. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to be able to use this menu button on the phone, the hardware of the phone, actually, and it's going to create a menu where it's going to inflate our own custom menu that we set up. And there's two items that we set up in this menu, and when we click on an item, it performs an action. Basically, this is setting up a new activity, which I used the splash XML as the set content. Basically, that's what we're going to do. We'll change what those menus or items do in the menu the next tutorial, make it a little more fancy. But for now, we're just going to set that up. First, we want to create a new class activity. We're going to call this Suite, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it Suite. And we want to set this up as an activity, so we're going to say extends activity class. And we got to import that. And then we got to, override some methods here. And basically, you guys know what you're doing. You've done this before. You're probably like, oh yeah, I could teach this right now. But this is for those noobs that are watching the videos out of line, Basically, on our end create, we're going to set content view as r.layout.splash. Basically, so we know our menu items are actually doing something. This is just kind of going to send up, start this activity so so we know that it works, basically. Sorry for that gibberish. But anyways, we also want to set up, or actually I'm going to set up the XML real quick, Android manifest, so it actually recognizes that. So I'm just going to copy and paste one of these activities that aren't the launcher and set up our Suite activity and just change it to all uppercase Suite as the name. So there we go. Now I want you to set up a new folder within our resources. This is going to store all the menus that we want to create. We're going to call it menu because we're so creative and awesome. And now we need to set up a new menu. How are we going to do that? Basically how we did it with an XML layout. We're going to go to Other, Android XML file. And this is basically what we did for a layout, but usually the layout button was selected. Now it's going to be selected for menu. So we're going to make sure the menu is selected. We're going to label this as main_menu. Sorry, I got the hiccups for some reason. But basically this is going to set up a menu, kind of like I showed you, instead of taking over the full screen like our layout would. So we got to add an XML like I always forget. And we are good to go there. And basically, for the menu, it's going to be pretty much set up like a layout was, except it's going to have a menu opening and closing. And what we want inside the menu, let's see what we have reference to. Pretty lame, huh? No buttons, no layout, no linear layouts, no like all that other sweet stuff you can do. Just item and group. So we're going to set up one item, and we'll see what we can define this item as here. And again, our choices are pretty limited, but we want to set up a reference so we can use it later. And this is going to be pretty much set up the same way, @+ID, and we're going to call this menu Suite. And just to show you some other things, we want these, let's say, alphabetic shortcut. Basically, when our menu inflates, we can use the keyboard on your phone if you have one to hit like let's say S. If you hit S on your keyboard when the menu is inflated, it'll choose this item. So basically it's kind of like, instead of clicking on it, you can also use your keyboard to set up some shortcuts. Last thing we want for this item is to be a title, so we can see it in action on the menu inflater. So you can set this up as whatever. You can reference it in your string if you set it up there. I'm just going to say open Suite activity. And then we just need to close our item. Now I'm just going to set up 2 items in this menu, and we're just going to change some things around. We're going to call this one toast, and you'll understand why in the next tutorial. And I'm just going to say toast for this as well, and change the shortcut to T. And there we go, we got our menu set up. Now we want to open up where we want this menu to be accessible from. So we're going to open up my menu Java class. And basically, I'm just going to minimize everything we've done on the onCreate method. And so it's going to look like this. It's not gone, it's just minimized, so don't worry. And then we need to set up 2 other methods. Instead of onCreate, we want some menu methods, and these are going to be Boolean. Boolean? I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. Never got that right. So if you guys want to shoot me an email or leave me some hate comments because I can't pronounce it right, that's fine. But basically we're going to say public Boolean, and we need to label these correctly for these. This is going to be the one to say, kind of give a reference to the menu button on the hardware of the phone, and it's going to set up what menu we want to inflate, and it's called onCreate options menu. And what it's going to take in its parameter is a menu item, and we're going to label that menu item menu. And it won't recognize what the menu is, so we're just going to import it. Again, this is just our variable we're going to use within this method. So there we go. And what we want to do is we want to say super.onCreate. Computer's super slow, so it's probably freaking, yeah, it's freaking out right now. Sorry. onCreate options menu, and it's going to take menu as its parameter again. And we're getting an error right now because every time you use a Boolean thing, it needs a return method, so it's going to say either return true or false somewhere within this method we need to set up to get rid of this error. So that's probably the problem so far. And then what we also want to set up is a menu inflater, and again this is just a variable that basically inflates what menu we want it to inflate, or pops up at the bottom of our screen. Not inflater, inflater. Alright, and we're just going to call this awesome. Doesn't really matter again. We're going to import that as well because it's not recognizing it. We need to set this up to something. We're going to set it up to a different method. Get menu inflater method, and now we just need to use this on something. We need to use this method on something, so we're going to do awesome dot inflate, and this is what it's going to inflate. And as you can see, it takes an int and a menu. Our menu is going to be what we labeled this menu as up here within our little class or our little method that we're setting up. And for this, it's going to be what we reference it, our reference, basically our r dot layout dot, or not layout, I'm sorry, r dot third time's a charm, r dot menu dot main menu, because it's referencing it through this menu folder. And then we're going to hit comma and menu, so it's that one right there. And now it's basically going to inflate this one when the hardware of the phone has clicked that menu button. All we have to do now is hit return true, and we are done with this class right here, or this little method. And now we want to set up another one because we want to be able to recognize when an item is clicked on. So this is going to be a kind of a true-false return as well. So we're going to set up as Boolean, and again you have to label this correctly. It's going to be on options item selected. Yeah, on options item selected, I believe. Hopefully, yeah, it is. Trust me. We'll figure this out. On options item selected, and this is going to take a menu item and its parameters. And again, it won't recognize it, so we're going to have to import it. But menu item, and we're going to call this item. So we got to import this. Bam. And there we go. Now we just need to set up what we want in here. Again, we're going to have a few choices, however many items are within our menu we can select from. So we're going to set this up as a switch and case like we've done in a previous lesson. And what we want the switch to be, well, we want it to be the ID. How are we going to get the ID from that? We're going to say item, whatever is passed into this method right here, which we set up right there. We're going to say get item ID. And it's just going to set up what the item ID is. Now again, we're going to run some cases, but let's say there's no cases that actually work that we want. So we're going to say, after we run all the cases and we can't find anything, we're just going to say return false outside of our switch and case brackets here. So it's going to return false. Otherwise, if it finds a case, we're going to make it return true. So we're going to say case r dot id dot menu suite. We're going to do some stuff, so dots on top of each other. What we're going to do, we're going to start a new activity. Again, this is kind of review for this part, and this will be a new intent. What intent? com.cornboys dot the basics dot sweet, and just finish that off with a semicolon, and we're going to also return true. Okay, and now we also want to set up a new case, r.id.menu toast, and for now we're just going to set this up as doing nothing. So we're going to say set this up next tutorial, and we'll change that one in the next tutorial as well. Basically, and we want to say return true as well. Doesn't really matter what the return is for these, but we're going to say return true and save it. Make sure everything works real quick. I'm going to run it, and basically, again, this is just for setting up the hardware of the phone and what menu we want it to inflate when we click that button. This one, we want to make sure what item it is and what we want that item to do, and we also make sure they're both Boolean and they're labeled this as well. And that's basically the end of this lesson. Now I'm just going to make sure it works real quick. Bam, there it is. Open suite activity, because our toast one doesn't do anything, and it opens up our new suite activity we created. Alright guys, thanks again for watching. See you later. Peace.